Hi everyone, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. And today I'm here to do my April/O.W.L.s wrap-up. So I'm going to talk all about the books that I have read in the month of April. Here they are. Altogether I have read 11 books. 7 of them were for O.W.L.s and 4 of them were just other books that I felt like reading. 11, when you think about it, it's not as much as I would love to have read, but it's still decent, it's still okay. So that's why we're going to start from the very beginning. First book that I read in the month of April was Private Peaceful, and this is not a memoir, this is just an account of First World War experiences growing up during First World War in England, in a village. It's a family story, very beautiful family story. I really liked it. It's a story about brotherhood, two brothers sticking together and always just like helping each other. It's also at first like a love story as well. So there are a lot of like small like lines going on in this book, but it was just so heartwarming as well as heartbreaking. I don't know, this book had so many things in it. It had guilt, it had shame, it had family, it had friendship, love. So many topics are explored here and I absolutely loved it. I loved brotherhood here, represented here, like and also the family relationship was just wonderful. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. This is actually a middle grade book as far as I understand, because the writer, he mainly writes middle grade, and like the main protagonist, we start with him being a very young boy and then like growing up, so probably this like middle grade / young adult, but it's beautifully written and explores topics of war, growing up, family beautifully. Highly recommended. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read in the month of April was also not for O.W.L.s, just for my, because I felt like it, is Here We Are by Graham Swift. This book, however, felt short for me. I wanted more from this book. Also, I didn't really enjoy writing style because it felt very interrupted. Like all the sentences were always interrupted. All the thoughts were interrupted, and like he was, at least like the way I saw it, the way I felt, like the author was constantly jumping from one topic to another, from one character to another, and it was so hard for me to follow. It was so hard for me to like just understand, what are we talking about? What are you trying to tell me? It was a little bit annoying, to be honest, annoying and just disheartening. So yeah, this book was difficult for me to read, difficult for me to follow, even though it's very short and the font is huge. It took me like 2 days to finish this book. I wasn't very eager to pick this up. In the end, I finished the book. In the end, I really liked the story. I really enjoyed like the story itself. However, I did not enjoy the writing, and I felt like I wanted more. I wanted to know more about the characters in the book. So we know there are 3 main characters, and the book is basically a woman in her 70s remembering her youth, and this one particular year in her youth when she was 25, and she meets these 2 guys working in the circus. One of them is a magician, another one is just an actor in the circus, and like her falling in love with them and like kind of choosing, not like, it's more complicated than that. So, and we only knew the backstory and life of the magician, but we didn't really know anything about her and about this other guy. So I felt I wanted more. I wanted to know more about her and about this actor. I felt like it would be better if it was a little bit longer and I would knew more about the characters. However, the story was, I really enjoyed it. Like in the end, when I finished and I kind of understood what was this all about and like where was this all going, I really liked it. But I feel like, at least for me, like in my feelings, it could have been done better. So I don't know, it wasn't my favorite, but still was an interesting read, you know. Next book also wasn't for O.W.L.s, and this is Anna of Byzantium, and this is a very short, very small book about a Byzantine princess and this is based on like a real story, real historical figure. The author herself, I think, is a historian, and she teaches history in like a university. Anne of Byzantium is a Byzantine prince who was supposed to be the queen after her death of her father, and she was brought up by her grandma. However, she gets into conflict with her grandmother, and then her grandmother replaces her with her younger brother, and eventually her younger brother becomes the king. And so she's like kind of snatched this opportunity from being the queen, even though she was like a rightful heir. And in Byzantium it wasn't necessarily that a boy had to be the heir to the throne. A woman could also be an heir, and this was like in her situation because she was the first daughter of the emperor, so she was supposed to be the heir. Yeah, however, because of the conflict with her grandmother, she lost this opportunity. I really liked the way her feelings were portrayed in this book, and her herself as a character, very intelligent, very educated, very hardworking, very determined, very brave. Like, she was a very interesting character herself. So yeah, I enjoyed this book, and it was also very short and quick, and yeah, very good. I think I gave it also 5 stars. Next book is Harry Potter. I read it for owls, I think. Yeah, so now we are going into the books that I read for owls. So first of them is Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban. We're not going to talk about it a lot because everybody probably has already read it. I always love Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a comfort read. It's like, I don't know, just a trip to my childhood. Feels good, always feels very comforting and cozy. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was a reread for me. I read it last year, and so this time it was a reread. However, the next book, Goblet of Fire, is going to be the first time for me, so I will read Goblet of Fire for the first time, maybe in May or maybe in June, so we will see. Wonderful as always. Next book was also absolutely wonderful, and this is The Hobbit. The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it felt just as wonderful and as magical as Harry Potter. I'm sure everybody knows Hobbit. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but it's brilliant. Now I'm very excited to get to Lord of the Rings when I find the books. But yeah, it was wonderful. It was also it just made me feel so happy. It made me feel so good and cozy and like at home, the way Harry Potter makes you feel, and very magical and very kind. So, you know, magical adventures is like the best. So really liked it. 5 stars out of 5. 10 out of 10, everything. Next book was also very good. I feel like month of April was a very good month for me. I enjoyed most of the books I've read. So next book was Miracles of the Nemea General Store, and I have already raved about this book in my other, I think 2 maybe videos. So the comfort reads video and my reading vlog. I loved it so much. Again, it's one of my new all-time favorite books, probably, by a Japanese author, Keiko Higashino, and it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. I really loved the way the narration made like a full circle. So like we started at the point and we returned back to the point, and it was just so masterful, and it felt so satisfying. And then I really liked the way all the characters in the book were interconnected with each other, even though they're totally different characters and like they don't really know each other, but they're all connected to each other in a way, and it was so satisfying. In short, we follow story of this Nemea General Store, and in the 80s, the owner of this shop started giving advice to people. He just wanted to kind of give back to society. He didn't charge money for it. He like just anybody could ask him any question and he would try to help. It all started with like children, small kids, asking him very stupid questions like, how can I get all A+ without studying? And he would always try to answer, also as a joke, but a very clever joke. And people really enjoyed that. However, later the questions started getting more and more serious, more and more difficult, about real life problems, and he would still try to help. And yeah, so eventually he just became this place where people came for advice. They would write letters. It wasn't like a personal thing. They would write anonymous letters and he would write them. However, the story begins in our time, where we follow like 3 rogues, 3 robbers. They have robbed something, and it's not mentioned in the beginning of the book what they have robbed. Their car has broken and they find this abandoned shop, so this general store. It was already abandoned, nobody lived there, and they just decided to spend the night there so the police wouldn't look for them there. When they were getting comfortable, a letter slipped through the mail slot. They were very like surprised because it couldn't possibly be for anybody in the house because nobody lives in the house, and it couldn't be possibly for them because nobody knows that they're there. They're kind of hiding. That's what they're counting on. And so they read the letter, and it's a woman asking for advice. She has a difficult problem and she wants somebody to help her. And she heard the story of this shop giving advice to people, and she came and asked for it. First, they didn't really want anything to do with it. They're like, just okay, it's none of our business. We shouldn't like write anything to her. But then one of them really felt bad for her. He's like, she needs somebody to listen to her, she needs somebody to help. And so they write an answer, and they leave the answer in the mail box like outside of the shop. And a few seconds later, a new letter comes from the same woman, and they're like, whoa, like how is it possible? And like the letter is like an answer to their letter. And so this is like this mystery slash like magical realism element to this book, which was also very beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So brilliant book. I loved it so much, and I would highly recommend it to everyone. This was like a page turner. I read it really fast and I couldn't put it down. I really wanted to know like what's going to happen to this next person, because the book contains 5 chapters and each chapter is about a different person. So brilliant. I really liked it and highly recommend it. Next book is Frost in May by Antonia White, and I also really liked this book. I feel like this is semi-autobiographical novel, and this is experiences of growing up and studying in a convent school, religious Catholic convent school. And we follow a story of this young girl whose father, she comes actually from a Protestant family, but her dad decided to change his religion, and he is now a Catholic, and like a very religious Catholic, and he wants her daughter to grow up also in like this Catholic tradition, and that's why he sends her to this convent school. And this is just experiences of living in that place, nuns, and how they teach girls and what they teach them, and like the small cruelties that they would do to them. And like to me it felt very suffocating. I don't know, I would never want to be in that place and learn in that place. However, the girl herself, she is very perplexed. She feels suffocated, and she wants more freedom, and she doesn't understand why certain things are forbidden. However, she also loves this place. I had very mixed feelings as a reader, because the main protagonist has very mixed feelings. She kind of hates this place, but she at the same time kind of loves it. Still, it was very interesting, such an interesting account, and I have never read any books like this. So now we have 2 books that I didn't really enjoy that much. They were not bad, like they were not terrible. I didn't hate them, but I just didn't really enjoy them a lot. So next book I read was Our Castle by the Sea. This is a middle grade novel about Second World War experiences, growing up during the Second World War, and it started so well. Like the beginning, approximately like till the middle of the book, or like maybe till like 70% of the book, it was really good, and like I really enjoyed it. It was interesting, and again kind of page turner. It was very easy to read. But after like 70%, the end just ruined everything for me. Like the whole book was just ruined into pieces. It was just shredded. I don't know, I really didn't like the end. Do you know these like villains? They just have to explain everything to their victim, like why they're doing it, when they started doing it, what they want to get out of it. Like they just have to explain every single detail of their plan, and like, you know, scream, "You cannot stop me, stupid girl," blah blah blah. Like this is so ridiculous. That this is just, I hate such villains. And like when people write villains like this, like if a person has an objective, if the person has a goal, why would somebody start explaining everything to just a victim? I don't know, I really don't think that it's like realistic, and it just really annoyed me in this book. And also I didn't really like how the writer allowed herself liberties with like history. You know, I just feel very emotional like in terms of like war and like Second World War, and I don't like it when people take liberties with the history. The ending was like a happy end, And the book ended in 1941. It's like, excuse me, but this is like still the beginning of war. And in the end of this book, everybody is very happy, everybody's plump. Describes her sister, and like she's plump and bright-eyed and so happy, like I have never seen her before. 1941. War is beginning. How is she plump and happy? I don't know. So again, I don't know, just the ending of the book just ruined everything for me. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this. I feel like, no, don't waste your time. Next book also was actually just not a disappointment. It was just like nothing, you know, like I didn't feel anything. And now when I look at this book, I don't really feel anything towards it, like, except that it has like a very beautiful cover. Like, that's it. I didn't hate it, I didn't like it, it was just like nothing. You know. The book we basically follow a story of 3 sisters living with their grandmother on this island, and they are not allowed to leave this island because of this like family curse. So all the women who leave the island will die by the next sunset, and it's just girls trying to break the curse. Again, I don't know, I don't know, I just didn't really like it. Also, I feel like just maybe Michelle Harrison isn't like my writer. I just felt very annoying sometimes when she describes like emotions. She just like really describes them like for paragraphs, like how a person feels. And I don't know, like normally I like it, I like character-centered book, but like in this case it really annoyed me, like the way. And I also have another book by her and she does the same thing here, and again it annoyed me. I don't know why, I cannot explain it, but in this case it felt very annoying. I don't know, so maybe just she's not my writer, I don't know. But this book I really didn't enjoy. And actually this book also by her I started, it was also for my O.W.L.s, but I'm like on page 30. I don't really feel like picking it up. I just really don't want to. I really don't like. I'm not interested. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't count it as a read book because just like 30 pages. I'm still thinking whether I'm going to DNF it or not, so we will see. But next book, next 2 books actually, I really loved, like both of them, brilliant. So this book, Live With Me, this is a French novel, and the writer Philippe Bisson, he describes his first love and his first relationships with a boy when he was growing up in like a small town somewhere in France. And it's just like, in case of the writer, he kind of always knew who he was, he always understood his sexuality and that he was attracted to boys. But this other, his partner, he also was attracted to boys. However, he didn't want to accept it. It was very hard for him to accept. He never wanted for anybody to find out. He was always very secretive with like his relationship, even though he was obviously very happy with the writer and like in this relationship, but he was just very unhappy with the fact that he was attracted to boys. He never wanted to accept it. And it's just a novel of their relationship, obviously in the beginning, but then like what happens with this other man who couldn't accept himself and who was scared of his sexuality. And of course, like the novel takes place in like 1980s or 70s, so that's like the society is also very traditional and conservative, and of course it was very hard for people to be accepted. And this was just very heartbreaking, just especially the ending. It's just, it was so, it wasn't like it was sad, but it was kind of bittersweet, but it was also very warm. Like I really enjoyed the relationships between the boys, how affectionate they were to each other, and just their love story. It was so beautiful. Yeah, in the end it was heartbreaking, but I would highly recommend this book. It's so good, and it's also very easy to read. It's written like in a short paragraph, but also be prepared that like the narration isn't like a linear narration. So he kind of, it's also, so he talks about present and then he jumps into the past, for example, like story related to this present moment, he would remember that, and then he could jump into the future because again, like the future story would be related to this present story. So he always jumps like from present to past to the future. Maybe for some people it would be difficult to follow. For me it was okay, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, the book is brilliant, I loved it so much. The last book that I have finished in April, actually I finished it on the 1st of May, but like there were just a few pages left. So Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima. And this was also such an interesting book. I really enjoyed it. This is a story of a young woman living in Tokyo, but her husband leaves her because he doesn't really have any money to support family. They have a small daughter, she is 3 years old, and he just wants to start like life anew, and that's why he decides to leave them. From what I read later on the internet, it says that in Japan in 1970s, that's when the book is set, 1970, being a single mother wasn't really accepted. There was a very strict stigma against single mothers, and society was very critical towards them. And so in this book we just see how this woman is trying to come to terms with her new situation and how she's learning to accept who she is now. And again, like society criticizing her, her herself feeling like a failure, feeling like she's a loser. It all just really messes up with her mental state, and she starts drinking, she starts not seeing men really, but like sometimes she has like just a random relationship with a guy. Of course it has an effect on her parenting, but she really loves her daughter. Like you can see in this book, sometimes there is like this scene when you can just feel that she really loves her daughter. She's just trying to do her best to provide a good life for her 3-year-old daughter, but it's just really hard on her to be alone and being criticized and being scrutinized, being constantly given advice on what to do, and like not leaving her husband, even though her husband is like a drunkie and he doesn't have any money, but somehow everybody still says her to just stay with her husband. And it's like he doesn't want to stay with them. It's not that she wants to separate, he doesn't want to stay with them. So you don't like, you feel so that people are so unfair towards her. Yeah, it was just very interesting. And also the portrayal of life in Tokyo in 1970s was very brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It was such a good book. I have another book also by the same author on the same problem, on the same problem of like single motherhood, because the writer herself was a single mother and she was a daughter of a single mother, so it's like a problem very close to like her experiences. Brilliant book. If you are interested in like Japanese culture and like Japanese experiences, I would highly recommend it. So good. And so yeah, so there you have it guys, all the 11 books I have read in the month of April. In terms of my O.W.L.s, I haven't read all the books I wanted to read, because my plan for my O.W.L.s was to read 12 books and I have read 8. However, some of them, like for example Hobbit, was for like my dragon training, but in order to be a dragon tamer, you also needed to complete like all the credits for Zoologist, and I haven't completed Charms. I cannot be Zoologist and I cannot be a dragon tamer. However, I still can be Hogwarts professor. I wanted to be Hogwarts professor and spellmaker. Cannot be spellmaker because I haven't completed Charms and I haven't completed something else. If you want to be a Hogwarts professor, you have to read like books for Defense Against the Dark Arts, book for like the subject that you want to teach, and 5 other books. So I read, for my Defense Against the Dark Arts, I have read the Our Castle by the Sea, so I have completed that. For herbology, for example, if I want to be professor of herbology, I have read Miracles of Navia General Store, and then I also have like 5 other books read, which is Pinch of Magic, Harry Potter, Territory of Light, Frost in May, and Lie With Me. So exactly 5 other books. So I can be Hogwarts professor of herbology. So that's my result for my O.W.L.s. Hogwarts professor of herbology, and Mer People Linguistics I've also completed because I read my book for herbology. Not exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to be like a Hogwarts professor of Charms plus spellmaker plus Dragon Tamer, plus More People Linguistics, plus Animagus. So I wanted to do a lot. I haven't completed everything, but I still can be a Hogwarts professor, which we actually were going for, just in a different subject. It's okay, life happens. Life doesn't always go to the plan, right? So, but I'm happy that I have completed my herbology professor, at least requirements. I can be a herbology professor because I like plants and it would be nice, and I am a Hufflepuff, so it's just perfect. So yeah, there you have it, guys, my wrap up for owls and for the month of April. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments, have you completed your owls? If you participated, what career did you finally get? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're staying safe and I hope you're having a very good day, and I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you. Bye.